Good morning. At the dome, the time will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly.
Woke up this morning without a warning. The words were still ringing in my head. It came, it seemed within my dream, a gentle voice, and this is what it said. Stop now, you got to stop and listen to what I say. Stop and feel that you've been missing along the way. Put aside your petty fight, serve your dignity. You've got to show the heart that you've been hiding and set it free. There's just one door, we're gone wrong. We all need love, yeah. And if the cure for one is the cure for us all, there's an urgent message trying to reach you. Excuse yourself and pick up the call. Pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. Pick up the call. It came the same way the very next day. The words they just kept on coming through. Hard to conceive if you believe me. This is what you really want to do. You got to tune into your inner being.
Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. Wow, this is the, I guess we got one more show to record this year, and wow, 2013's gone, Ramon.
I would say this is the last show that would air on 2013.
Yeah. Well, besides our live shows, but
yeah,
and this year, Ramon, has just flashed by. I mean, it seems like maybe we spent a month in 2013. Yeah.
Anyway, happy holidays to everybody out there. What we got? Happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas. Am I missing anything?
Oh, I'm sure. You know, there's 200 and some religions on the planet, or thousands of religions in different sections.
Happy Saturnalia? Saturnalia, thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, and I have an announcement to make. I am a new great uncle again. So my nephew had his first child on solstice on the 21st at 11:11 a.m. in the morning. And she weighed 6 pounds, 12 ounces, perfectly healthy, beautiful little girl. Her name is Ravenna Winter. Just love that name. Just love that. So I'm a proud uncle again.
A grand uncle at that.
Wow, just the time, the numerology. I'm going to have to look at her chart and see what it looks like, because I'm sure it's going to be quite amazing. Born 11/11. Just that in itself, born at 11/11. You know, with everything that we've gone through and we've been aware of in the last couple of years, out here on in the fringe woo-woo world. You know, it's just looking at the numbers surrounding this little girl's birth is amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. 11/11. What a timing.
Yep.
You think she did that on purpose?
Well, I would have to say something did it on purpose. I don't know if, I'm sure there's some intention behind it of some form or fashion.
Yeah.
At least in my experience has told me that there's definitely something behind that stuff.
So, Tom, we have an amazing guest coming up. Anything else we should cover before we...
No, let's just jump right into it. We have Craig Sim Webb on the show with us tonight. Craig is the executive director of the nonprofit Dreams Foundation for over 16 years. Is a McGill University graduate with pioneering dream and lucid dream research at Stanford University and Montreal's Sacré-Coeur, I probably pronounced that wrong, hospital. As an author, columnist, and hired/invited expert on major motion pictures, Fortune 500 companies, universities, international TV networks, magazines, etc. He's broadcast and published cutting-edge approaches on dreams, applied psychology, communications, creativity, and the science of mind, as well as interviews with leading visionaries. His empowering trainings have enabled CEOs, celebrities, doctors, professors, best-selling authors, world-class athletes, students, and other clients from all walks of life to make profound breakthroughs while having plenty of fun. Craig also helped found and produce Making Contact, a progressive radio program airing weekly on 150 stations worldwide for over 16 years, and has designed personal transformation and biofeedback tools with worldwide distribution. For 2 decades, he has had the privilege to lead numerous training programs and over 1,500 miles of transformational training programs. Craig and his work have made over 1,000 international academic, public, and corporate appearances, including various universities, Discovery Channel, ABC, BBC, just about every damn media outlet you can think of. And he's just been doing some amazing work out there. His website is www.dreams.ca. Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio, Craig.
Wow, thanks for the really nice introduction, guys. Thanks for having me on, too.
Oh, well, this subject, Ramon and I, this subject has definitely been something that we have touched on periodically through the last 3 years with various guests. And there is such a treasure trove of resources and information that we can find in our sleeping life that we found. To start off with, Craig, what was it that actually got you pointed in the direction of dream research? If I understand right, you started studying as a physicist.
Yeah. In fact, I would say I still study as a physicist, loosening up the meaning a little bit. But I keep that sort of research and let's get some empirical results. We have to test it, try it, and it has to work. So that's still here, but I expanded beyond that. Sometimes I like to say I was kidnapped, sort of an analogy. But I was, kind of minding my own business, good objective science, physics, all the research, and electronics, pretty worldly stuff, and I liked provability and all that. And then all of a sudden, I had a powerful near-death experience. And my near-death experience lasted about 4 years.
Wow.
4 years. And then McGill University gave me a diploma for it. It was called a Bachelor in Science. You guys ever have a near-death experience like that?
Oh, geez. My son's going through one right now, I think.
Okay. Well, he could relate a little bit. And I do make a joke about it in a way. Yeah, it's a deeper truth, though, because during the degree, which, was pretty good. I'm grateful for my degree, even though I joke about it. It's lots of great training in there. But part of me wasn't getting educated, trained, or, any focus or attention whatsoever. Maybe my emotional side, intuitive side, probably a lot of things you guys talk about. I was just getting trained in very nuts and bolts objective physics. And so as life would have it, I was actually blessed to sort of be kidnapped because I got stuck under a whitewater raft. I was rafting in Quebec City at age 21 and fell off the back, which I enjoyed usually. I was like a kayaker and a windsurfer and a great swimmer, top 200-meter breaststroke in Canada in my age group at one point. So I loved the water. And there I was, stuck under a raft. Imagine kind of cold, swirling fall water with lots of silt and stuff in the river. So I couldn't see, and I hadn't gotten much of a breath before getting stuck under there. So I just was bouncing into the raft without being able to see quite how to get away or how to get out. And the fight and flight turned into this simple, single, kind of powerful thought. And in retrospect, it was actually really surprising, too. But I just there all of a sudden, kind of quiet mind and the simple thought, wow, I guess I'm dying right now. This is it. Here we go. And sort of alongside that thought, hey, this is pretty good. I feel good. Sort of a little bit of surprise, but definitely a rich piece. And, in retrospect, like I said, that was kind of unusual. And I'm not quite sure how I escaped that tough moment there. I guess the guide pulled me out. It's sort of like cut to next scene in my memory. But I did raft the rest of the day, more or less as normal, except I had this rich piece now. Who knows? This is all interpretation, but maybe I bit off a little bit of the fear of death in there. But then I noticed I started remembering up to about 10 dreams a day. You know how dreams usually disappear maybe by breakfast or even by the shower in the morning?
Right. Well, I'm lucky to have one make it past me, opening my eyes.
Okay, so you got kind of a little delicate, but it's a delicate kind of memory. I mean, if we put electrodes on there, you'd see that it's a little bit different frequencies, different parts of the brain. So it's not the same as our normal waking memory, and it's fairly delicate. But in this case, I was having them well past lunch into following days, like super recall. I don't know. Some kind of channel opened up, and the first thing that started happening was I recorded them. I thought, interesting. So fortunately, I was open-minded. The scientist in me maybe started taking down the data, and then I noticed that I could actually, or not that I could, but I started dreaming very specific, pretty unlikely events that I would dream accurately beforehand. Sometimes days, few days, weeks. I can give you some examples, but started blowing away my worldview. Oh my gosh, there's some way to skip through time here. I mean, Einstein talks about it, but I've never seen anything other than sci-fi shows or books where I've experienced it. But here I was having real, believable experiences, asking others who also had them. Then I started having lucid dreams. We can talk about that tonight, but dreams during which I knew it was a dream with my body in bed. And all to say that I was like, wow, they did not teach me this stuff in physics class. So I got to do some explorations here. And long story short, about 7 years later, ended up at Stanford University in the world pioneering lucid dream research that sort of brought, conscious dreaming public to the world. And then later returned to Canada to start the Dreams Foundation. Really, I just wanted to help get some of this amazing stuff, the experiences, the techniques, the research, out to more people, because at that time, and even still, some of that stuff wasn't reaching people to help them, inspire them, and bring us lots of fun. So that's kind of been the mission ever since.
So what kind of research is going on out there right now on trying to verify let's talk about the prophetic type dreams, the premonition type dreams. Is there any research out there going on right now that's trying to document and get this? I hate using the P word as in proof, but beyond the reasonable shadow of doubt type evidence.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's a subjective experience. Anything that's outside of present moment will be. So it's subjective. It doesn't come through the physical senses. So the proof is never really going to convince somebody who's a super skeptic. So bottom line, I usually say it takes first-person subjective scientists. Really, it takes people who want to explore, try it, at least with an open mind, and then see what you get. And maybe it takes a little bit of keeping the mind open for first few tries and stuff. But interesting when we get to statistics, which might convince some people, that actually 2 out of 3 people, from measuring pretty large number of people, 2 out of 3 people say at some point in their life they've dreamt something that's come true. Which is, there's a lot of people doing it, so it's not being talked about too much. Maybe a little more on the show or the audience here, but generally speaking, not talked about too much. And then if we apply a little more stringent criteria, such as has to be a very rare event, not like the dog came home or something, something that's pretty unlikely, let's say under 1% chance of just randomly happening. And then the dream or the intuition, maybe the meditation, vision, whatever it was, had to be shared before the event in a way that can be trackable. So if we put those constraints on there, actually 1 in 12 people have had a fairly provable precognitive episode. So when you start looking at statistics, it gets interesting. There's a bunch of other research too. One that I really like is a study by J.E. Orme. This is a while back, but the Journal of Psychical Research out of UK there. But he decided to see if there was any correlation between when some event was dreamt about and then the time delay between, a rare event, the time delay between the dream and the actual manifestation of the event. which is kind of interesting. So tracking a large number of people again. And why I like it so much is it starts bridging into physics, because I didn't throw out my old training, I just added to it. And it comes up as a pretty straight line on a log-log graph. So it's kind of an inverse line going down. Basically, when it gets up to longer times, it drops off exponentially. You could say many, many fewer, not just linear, fewer dream, a long time ahead. And since it's a pretty much straight line, that suggests, it's not like exact proof, but it suggests that there's some kind of branching universe out there. So at every time that something important is coming, we make a choice and we actually split up, and what a probable future that we might have dreamt about is less likely with each choice, and that's why it falls off exponentially, But there was one point on there for somebody who dreams accurately 21 years ahead, which is always interesting. So, some other stuff too. You guys have had experiences of precognition yourself?
Well, I have some, I get some stuff during meditations. My dreams themselves, when I remember a dream, it's kind of jaw-dropping and earth-shattering and has tremendous significance for me personally as far as where I am in my life. So
that's good. You're not too much noise on the signal for you. You might not get them every day, but when you get them, you listen.
Oh man, yeah. When I get them, they're in Technicolor and they are real. So I also am a conscious, intentional astral projector. So I've been able to project through meditation. And, one thing that fascinates me about dreams themselves is the texture of the experience of a lucid dream and the texture of the experience of an out-of-body experience are very similar. So I'm... my own personal theory is that they're basically the same sort of places that we go into, which is, well, my mind can go off in 1,000 different directions when I start going into this, but, I have a feeling that there's we have the ability, or this universe has the ability to create space for experience. And, that's kind of the way I've experienced both through the dream state and through the astral projection, is that space is created for a teaching process, for me to learn or comprehend something on a deeper level of my own being, my own inner understandings, so to say.
Your growth, probably.
Yeah, my own growth. That's the word I'm looking for.
What about you, Ramon? You had any precognition?
Not me personally that I could think of. I dream a lot more than Tom, but not precognition per se. But my mother, on the other hand, has had some amazing precognition. I mean, I'll tell you one experience. I was in college, and I had spoken to her that morning. And she says, you're planning to go to this river, and there's this like stone bridge kind of thing, and you're going to want to jump off it because you're going to see these young little black kids jumping off the bridge, and you're going to hit your head on a cement thing in the bottom that you can't see, in the bottom of the river. So when I go to the place, I didn't pay much mind. When I go to the place, I saw exactly what she described. Little kids jumping off the bridge and everything, and I wanted to do that, and then I remember the dream that she told me, and of course I didn't do that.
That's the kind of data I love. It's accurate precognitive data, but the event didn't come true because somebody acted differently. So we don't need the predictions to come true as long as they help it.
The situation. Yeah. But I'm trying to remember if I I don't think I've had situations where something is happening and it's somewhat precognitive, but I'm not sure. And then I remember a situation and I said, I dreamed this before, but something different is happening. So in my memory, I remember getting into argument with this person or getting into a fight with this person.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's going a whole different direction.
But enough that you can sort of track that you dreamt it. So let's say thematically precog.
Yeah.
Or feeling-wise.
I wanted to step back a moment to the to your drowning experience. Did you actually feel yourself pulling in water into your body, and then that's when you felt the peace, or did you ever get that far into the?
It's a good question. I don't really remember. It's now been I don't know, 28 years ago or so. So that part's not gone. The thing I remember most of all is really that rich peace. But they didn't. I'm pretty sure they didn't take me to the side and squirt water out of my lungs or anything, or give me mouth to mouth ANR. What do they call it? Resuscitation,
Right.
artificial. Yeah. I think it was less than that. That's why I sort of vaguely remember sort of the guy pulled me out. So I guess I was lucky enough in that way. It wasn't a super 911 kind of experience, but internally it was pretty much some kind of big shift. You could say a probability shift. And I tell it as it is truly a physical event, but you could look at it, and sometimes I relate it as sort of a waking symptom of death that was happening at another level. So a little bit more symbolic or dreamlike if you kind of look at it rather than memory as dreamlike event. I was sort of rebirthed underwater and came out with these new abilities or a new perspective on life anyway, starting to have new experiences. So even though a physical event, it was kind of symbolic of the death that was happening to another part of me, I think.
Yeah. Well, what is it about those experiences? Because if you were the only person to say that, then it wouldn't be, that amazing. But so many people who've had your type of experience, especially the ones in the water, they always come back awakened, and it's like a switch is turned on after those experiences. So what is it exactly about that experience that you think, is it the death of the fear? Because now you know that you're no longer, when you die, it's just not lights out. It's something more.
Yeah, well, that's one thing. Although that came from me from lucid dreaming also. So realizing, oh my God, they didn't tell me, but life is just one station on the dial.
Right.
Really, physical life is just one stop where my perceptions can work fine. And, this physical body, and I can be on lots of other stations, dreams, and who knows, other states too. So that came a little bit with the freedom of fear from death, at least intellectually, but emotionally and experientially. I would say, to answer your question, that the model I offered before is the way I like to understand it. Anything we say is really interpretation, so each person might have a different view. But I sort of conceive of it best as more of a dreamlike or symbolic event. In life we have this app, if you want to call it an app, like on your iPhone, your phone or something. And we don't even know that we run it, but we think objectively, this happened, this is an event, this is real. And when it's past, we call it memory. So we have these labels for those events. But let's just say for a second you run a different app or you put a different label instead of memory. I call that dream. Then it becomes, oh, okay, guy was going along down the river of life, maybe paddling gently or not, probably not if he's on a raft. And the dream of life said it's time for this guy to sort of go through the water, get a rebirth here, maybe a baptism, and awaken to some kind of new thing. And yeah, he's going to have to let go of some fear, and in some way, his old identity, as I usually say, I'm a recovering thinkaholic. I used to be just a physicist, but now one of me is a physicist. So the part of me that was probably quite limited. I mean, I'm really glad for the experience, even though it was kind of weird and a bit spooky. And I'm glad that it happened because who I came out as later was much different. So part of me died, yeah, symbolically, not physically, but probably the symbolic is bigger because who I am depends so much on what happened then that is just monstrous, So that's how I understand it, but who knows exactly. What I've seen from people who've had powerful experiences, car crashes or whatever health, usually the symbolism of how they came close to death or had a near death is actually quite important in who they are and what they're going to offer later. So the actual type of occurrence. For me, it was water. So having to kind of go into the subconscious or rebirth through the emotions, which for me was a new thing,
Right. You know, there's been some absolutely fascinating people that have come out on the world stage here in the last couple of decades through you know, a multitude of different types of experiences or awakenings. And the ones that I find uh, the that raise higher on my credibility meter are those ones that are coming out of the Western science organizations, you know, the physicists, the scientists and stuff that actually have an experience of some kind that opens them up to a wider reality. And, you know, people like, I'm sure you're familiar with Tom Campbell.
Just give me a few hints.
Tom Campbell's a Monroe Institute physicist, did a tremendous amount of studies with Bob Monroe.
Okay. Well, I know Bob Monroe and the Monroe Institute. I haven't heard of Tom before.
Okay, well,
I know Skip, who used to direct the whole institute. He's moved on now from there. But.
Right. Yeah, well, that type of person, and you fall into that category, coming out of the sciences, and it's just, I don't know. I find that phenomena in our day and age a very welcome appearance on the world stage, because they're coming with the Western training, you know, the very, you know, materialistic viewed training, and then they're taking that and adding in all these other things that we're finding out about the things that we can't see, touch, taste, and feel.
Mm-hmm. So, as a Westerner, sort of trained in this objective, maybe even if you didn't have science, you're kind of trained in the empirical world, nuts and bolts view, sort of what happened when, I guess, René Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am," and right. Newton said, you know, here's the law of this physics, and it's all the outer senses laws that he came up with. So then we go for a few hundred years and we become very objective. So someone who's had an experience, maybe like myself or like Tom, we have the language of that culture and that thinking. So it's easier to translate something that's outside that world, you know, that's inner. Right. And I'm really lucky. I feel really blessed, because dreams is such a universal thing. And let's say some forefathers, Sigmund Freud and Jung, and before them, even others, but especially them, brought that to the Western mind, or the, let's say, more intellectual industrial mind, that it was okay and it was interesting to explore and research and talk about. There might be value there. So it started 100 years ago. Otherwise, I'd probably be like beating upstream pretty bad here with just the idea of dreams have anything of interest, you know? Right. So don't forget the forefathers.
So dreams themselves, you know, do we have just random dreams, or do all dreams have some form of meaning behind them? Because, you know, I hear people talk about their dreams, and you know, the pink bunny rabbit with polka dots that you know stole their lunch, and you know, you just some bizarre things coming out of some of the dreams that people have. And some of them, I get when people are relaying them to me or relating them to me. Sometimes I get the feeling like, wow, that was just some random stuff. You ate something bad before you went to bed type thing. But do you think that all dreams have a particular meaning, or do we actually have just the random off the wall images that pop into our minds at night too?
Well, that's an open-ended question. I could be a little bit of a devil's advocate here to say, do all waking experiences have meaning? And then you could say yes to either, or no to either, or maybe. But the question itself sort of has a few question marks in it, or things to look at. So that's interesting. The word meaning, so that's interesting, because one person's meaning may or may not be another person's value or of interest. Right. In terms of the little more physiological dreams, are there different types or classes of dreams? Yeah, definitely. Some of them can be tracked across different REM periods during the night, different physiology states, different brain states, etc. Certainly lots of people can say they've had very clear experiences. They might not even use the word dream, but let's say vision, or they might not name it. It was just a real event, but it happened during the night. But something that wasn't doable, like, you know, somebody came in their door and then when they later checked in the morning, it was still locked. So, but a real experience, so they might not even call it a dream. So it really goes across the gamut. But the more physical dreams, let's say you had the big MSG Chinese food dinner at like midnight and then went to sleep right after it. It might not be as interesting to look at the content. Yeah, it might be more of a body dream, a bit of a nightmare usually, that the whole digestive system is saying, what the? I don't usually have this before sleep. And probably if you wanted to say meaning, yeah, there's meaning. If I have a nightmare, don't have Chinese food at midnight. But as for the content, you might not get a lot of interest out of it. And maybe you will if you're an artist, I think, who's the guy? Well, Salvador Dali and numerous others, I guess Kubla Khan, some of these things came from different chemical or food-inspired dreams. I think Salvador Dali used to like to eat sea urchins for his really amazing paintings. He'd go and sleep after a big meal of sea urchins.
Really?
So it depends if you're going to use it intentionally. And there's certain foods that can actually help recall, and obviously there's different vitamins, and if you want to do those things, such drugs that can affect dreams, either positively or negatively, because they are physiological experiences, so they're going to depend on body chemistry. So it gets interesting to experiment a little, see what other people have learned. And then I don't usually encourage any drug experiences, but you can try some of the more natural ones, the foods and maybe the vitamins, and see if it helps.
How do you feel about those dream enhancing, what do you call them, Tom? Like the, I can't remember right now. Those little probes the helmet, the God helmet.
The God Persinger? That's
Yeah.
Persinger's device there. I think he's out of Toronto or somewhere around there. Well, there's lots of TEMS kind of technologies, which is fancy for transcranial electromagnetic induced stimulation, I guess. So creating experiences by firing magnetic waves. That specific one, I personally wouldn't be too keen on it. It's basically like sticking a microwave on your head. You could say, or a bugger, high-powered cell phone or something. Yeah, you can create some experiences, but what else are you doing that might be permanent? So I'd be a little bit more selective. I usually personally suggest if people want to go the technological route for enhancing or learning or training or that kind of thing, I usually suggest biofeedback, which is a little less intrusive. And once in a while, maybe very key kind of stimulation devices that usually light and sound that come in through the physical senses rather than just blasting the brain with electric or magnetic induction. But there's lots of biofeedback devices. So in other words, you can have a training before sleep, for example. You can get your brain state either through audio feedback or maybe visual, watching some different patterns or shapes on a screen or colors. You can train your brain to go into certain states, and even your physical body, your physiology, that will really help induce dream recall or, better sleep for those who have insomnia, maybe even lucid dreaming if you get the right tracking and programs and stuff. So that way it's empowering, because once you learn it and you kind of get a feel for it subjectively, you don't need the device anymore, or you don't need the chemical or the drug. So I like the ones that are empowering personally.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things I find amazing about this is the, to go through problems when you're having a lucid dream, or to become better at something, or to figure out how to do something. Because so many people have talked about how they use their dreams to, go to the next stage in a business or heal themselves.
Sure.
Have you come across this in your studies?
Yeah, well, do you have a moment here? I can give you the whole big picture that I think might really open up the question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. I love that we have time here. Thanks, you guys, for giving me so much space to share my passion.
Oh, we got to go. Talk to you later. No, just kidding.
That was my bad dream there, just coming up. No, I was just going to say, if people kind of take a look around the room here, you guys can do the same here, but listeners, just kind of look around the room. I imagine you're in the room, or even if you're outside, listen.
Hello? Did you just go away?
Yeah, we just lost him.
Maybe we shouldn't do this experiment. Too powerful.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Gonna get them onto another universe. Okay, so you could look around the room, or if you're outside, you can look around. It would probably apply to most situations. And start to question this pretty interesting idea. Is there anything in my perspective, in my perception right now, that didn't either come from a human thought directly, or that hasn't been affected somehow by a human thought? So as we're doing the experiment here, can you guys name anything in your room there?
Yeah, not really. I've got a what is this, Moldavite? I've got a stone here, but that's the closest thing I can think of that hasn't been something that was manipulated in some form or fashion by human thought.
Yeah, I have stones too, but they've been cut, so that's been manipulated. And then there's plants, but they've been put there by humans. Yeah, I can't find anything in my...
Yeah, so they've been put there by you, or the stone, the Moldavite, a nice green stone, by the way, right? Has been put there by you and maybe made into a chain by somebody. I don't know if it's just natural. But bottom line is everything, and there's a few exceptions, but they're rare, and then there's one overarching idea that could say even you yourself being in that room affects all the experiences. So that came from a thought too. Although that's a pretty, baseline one. But if you just go with the simple one that, wow, all these things in my perception, or most of them, let's say, unless I'm outside, even outside, the air usually has pollution in it and the grounds have been changed a bit, etc. So that we could say everything in my experience has been either affected by or comes from a human thought. Wow, I'm actually just living in a sea of thought. This house, this bed, this computer, this whatever, this iPod. I'm living in a sea of thought. It's actually just human thought shifted in time. And the only difference here is somebody acted on the thought and, brought the Moldavite here, or made the computer that I'm listening to this on, or whatever, made the song, or spoke and joined Tom and Ramon on the 100th Monkey. That would be Craig's thought, and said, yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to share. So all the events of our lives come from a human thought. So then it becomes super important to say this question. I encourage you and all the listeners to kind of consider here. And there's no right or wrong, just kind of asking the questions interesting. Where do thoughts come from? Where do thoughts come from? And I don't think we have any conclusive answer. And each person should probably get their own answer. But one answer that I've come with many times is that thoughts are often inspired by the invisible experiences that we call dreams. So we might not always draw the connection, but a lot of the big events that happen in our life, the insights, the important actions, maybe these inventions you're talking about, Tom, or the new skills, or the problems solved, like 3 or 4 Nobel Prizes, or #1 film of all time, #1 song of all time, probably what's going to end up being the top business of the world, all directly inspired by dreams. Then later a thought, maybe a remembered dream, but not always consciously connected as a dream. Sometimes it just happens as an insight during the day. We act on it and it becomes an event. So in some way, I think most of the events of our life probably are either inspired by or at least affected by dreams of somebody or our own. And then it gets really profound to say, wow, I'm actually living in a dream world, even though it's shifted in time and comes through the physical senses. I'm actually living in things inspired by dreams, probably many of them. Examples I said was like the largest film of all time. I had the great privilege to speak to Mr. James Cameron, who shared with me that actually 2 dreams inspired the #1 grossing movie of all time, Avatar. And he said his mom dreamt of tall blue warrior people, and he thought that was pretty cool and wrote a short story and then later developed it and became a screenplay. And he had a powerful dream of a beautiful bioluminescent river and a forest with animals that glowed and stuff. He said, wow, that's got to be a film scene. And when he was writing up Avatar, he included a lot of the scenes from that dream to include bioluminescence. So he said 2 of the key elements, both of which are actually on the movie poster, came from dreams directly, and he tracked it. So, you can see them. And do you guys know what's probably going to end up being the #1 company, or at least #1 internet company inspired by a dream?
Google?
You got it. Larry Page dreamt of a new way to download the internet and make a better search engine. And he's still currently the CEO, doing a great job too. So there's $4 billion dream or $3 billion, something like that.
Right.
That's not bad if you're tracking dollars also. So obviously lots of work later and lots of stuff, but the seed itself. So yeah, there's lots of examples, and usually each person gets dreams, or let's say just your waking thought, even if you don't have great dream recall, which hopefully we can help a little bit. If you go to dreams.ca, the website of the Dreams Foundation, there's lots of tips there for dream recall. let's say you don't remember a dream every day, even if you just catch that first 1 or 2 waking thoughts in the morning, just before you get going and get out of bed, those are often starting to be dreams translated into more waking thinking, more linear thought, and they'll often provide an intuitive insight about something that you went to sleep with. So you can start to ask questions, sleep on it. Have you guys done that? Sleep on it?
Yeah.
So basically something we all do, but then just guiding it a little more and tracking it. And hopefully, this is the part that I really like when people act on it. Taking the question, what does the dream mean, and converting it to what does the dream want? Asking a new question can bring new results. And if we ask, what does the dream want? Often we'll act on it. And those gifts inside each of us will come out to the world. And that's what I encourage.
Now that's an interesting twist, asking, turning that question around and asking what the dream wants.
Yeah, that is an interesting twist.
So does that go into kind of a preloading or front loading the dreams?
Well, it just gives them a venue to actually express, really, because another principle might not be obvious. I mean, if you hear it, you might just go, of course, but it's subtle, too. If you really think about it, you go, wow. That actually all action that we do is thought in motion, which is kind of interesting. So thoughts become events when we act on them. And, I think it was Yoko Ono who said, a dream is just a dream until we act on it. In other words, all the songs, all the inventions, all the objects in your room, basically, won't have come into being unless somebody acted on a thought. And if we can start to align those thoughts with inspired thoughts, kind of dreams and maybe intuition and some of the stuff that's connected with the larger internet, I use sort of that inner part of joke to say the internet we're all connected with, the collective subconscious. Then the thoughts that we act on and that we bring into the world, maybe our creative expression, ends up being something that can serve everybody and probably bring us lots of joy too when we connect with our true mission. So just get connected a little better to your own internet, maybe remember dreams. And if you act on the insights, often those are going to be pretty big payoffs, at least for you and maybe for others.
What about in situations of self-healing?
Yeah, another big application of dreams. They're a realm where so many things can pay off. One of our non-obvious thoughts here is our body, right? Created by, on some level, the actions that we take. Maybe it was given to us at birth, we can say, but certainly affected by a lot of our thoughts and the choices we make. So sometimes it can just be simple diagnosis dreams. We might have a problem or a question or need a little bit of help with our yoga postures or insights about health, etc., diet maybe. We might get an answer in dreams, more clarification on something. Or maybe we'll ask for an actual healing dream itself. I can give some interesting examples. But something where we have a subtle experience in a dream, or in our sleep even, and then we wake up with a shifted physiology, an actual shifted body. Let's say maybe for one client I worked with, he had this really bad cold that's been lasting 3 or 4 weeks, and normally he wouldn't get any colds, And you could say it's not too earth-shattering, but for him, he was getting bummed out. And I said, why don't you just check in with deeper levels, ask at dreams if they can give insight, or maybe just heal it directly. So he said, oh, that's cool, I'll try that. So he went to sleep just with that intention, kind of maybe a bit of a picture of himself being healthy, so kind of using the law of attraction in a way. Programmed it into his DPS, I like to say, your dream positioning system, kind of like the GPS in your car, but for the surface of your life here, you can get directions from inside if you use dreams, programming your DPS before sleep. And he said he woke up, in this case, he didn't need any new directions. He just had a powerful dream with leeches oozing out of his pores of his legs. And I says, I never figured out what the heck it meant. But you know what? I was actually better by that afternoon after about 4 weeks. So maybe just a suggestion, something I never even tried logically because I was kind of in a victim mode or something. But I used the subconscious, got this insight, and maybe even at other levels I changed my physiology. I don't know, but I don't really care because I'm actually feeling better, and that's the main thing. So sometimes direct healing. And then it gets interesting. We can actually dream for other people's health. So helper kind of dreams. And, lots of variations in between and beyond. Sometimes when we're dreaming of creations or inventions or songs for the world, maybe we're dreaming for collective mental, emotional health of the future. We don't know.
So you mentioned the DPS, and I really like that. That's awesome.
Like that one, huh?
how do we program that? How do we front load our dreams? I know that there's a ton of different methods that people have developed out there, and I'm curious to know if you've found any that seem to have a higher success rate than others.
Yeah, well, I'll first say that it's a simple, natural process. And what I just said was probably about the most powerful technique I can offer also. It doesn't sound obvious. It's just a statement, right? But if you can really go into that framework and that thinking that, hey, you know what, simple, easy, natural, this was a kind of a given that every person on Earth has, maybe even animals if they visualize something. You just kind of choose something that you want and or just know that you want it and get clear. Usually clarity is about 90% of the challenge. And then I usually encourage people, if you want specific things rather than just something general, first encourage people to get clear about the feeling that you want. Let's say, I don't know, somebody wants $1 million. This is a common one, or some kind of financial thing. So I say get clear about the feeling you want, and you might be able to strike out the middleman in your dealing here. And they say, middleman? I say, yeah, the middleman is $1 million, because what are you going to do with $1 million? Well, if I had $1 million, I don't know. Maybe I'd go and follow my dream and become an artist. And I say, well, start now. Don't wait for the $1 million.
No.
But at least make sure that you have the feeling of whatever that's going to give you, creative joy or freedom or something, and then program that in. And even if you don't get necessarily $1 million right away, although I'm sure you can, because life is pretty malleable, it's quite dreamlike. But let's say you don't get that right away. At least you're starting to get the feeling. And you could also, manifest $1 million, some kind of lottery winning. I've heard some really strange stories. And then not have the feeling that you probably wanted but weren't clear about. You might be really upset, stressed, or lose all the money and then be depressed, or lots of variations. So I usually encourage people to get clear about the feeling, and then you can add a scenario around it. Yeah, it's not bad to ask for $1 million. Just get clear of what the scenario and the feeling would be. And the needs that will met, and ideally something that can help others, like most of the gifts that we receive can kind of be given away later. The ripe fruits within us going off the tree for others. And then if you want to program that before sleep, it's usually a little more powerful than just during the day, because you're actually seeding the place where thoughts and events grow from in dreams, from other levels, from deeper levels. And if you seed it with a clear intention, most likely you'll either remember a dream or sometimes just magically the next day something will happen related to that question, or you'll get clarification reading a book, or sometimes you'll actually have a person come up to you out of nowhere and just answer it direct and or give you the gift that you were asking for, etc. So sometimes there's magic and sometimes it's just logical. You get a bit of a clear insight of how to program that program if you're a programmer in the morning, and you act on it, and then you solve the program, let's say, in 2 days instead of 2 weeks. So it doesn't have to be magical, but many times it is if you use dreams.
In the beginning of the next hour, I would like for you to take us through one of these programming. I don't know if you're able to do that. But how much time we have left, Tom, in this?
Just a couple minutes.
Okay, so I guess we'll give you an opportunity now to give out your website, how people can find you. You do private sessions as well, you were saying?
Yeah, if people are interested in, let's say, personal training, I usually encourage it. Empowerment training and or sessions, sort of counseling. Then they can check out craigwebb.ca. That's 2 B's there, CRAIGWEBB.ca. And there's also usually what I encourage people. I prefer this over private trainings, depending on the client. But I encourage people to join the teleclasses that I offer. It's more budgetary. And we can talk about the experience. But it gets way more interesting because often people are dreaming for each other. There's all kinds of inception, quote unquote, where people enter other people's dreams and can help them or gain insights or at least meet them, mutual dreaming. And then people can have more fun as they learn what they need to. And obviously, when it's a class of more people, it's a little bit better on the budget. So that's usually what I encourage people. So that's at craigwebb.ca. And lots of great free tips at dreams.ca. That's the nonprofit Dreams Foundation. So there's kind of 2 versions of me online. Webb on the web. I
didn't see a book. You don't have a book out?
Well, I have an audiobook, Dreams and Dying, there. That's probably on the dreams.ca site. It might have been removed because it's actually in transition. The whole site's in transition of being upgraded. But if you check out dreams.ca, you should find that. Or you can just email, and if people want to find 12 ways that dreams can be really helpful around the process or experience of death and dying, which actually is a very big application or benefit, a way dreams can benefit. I did a whole audiobook on that. That's quite powerful. People have given good feedback. And then lots of other elements that I usually bring to live talks. So
great. Good
training,
stuff.
which is really the main product there.
Good stuff. Very interesting stuff. I love this. Okay, well, let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and take a break here, and we will come back into the second segment and dig a bit deeper. This is some fascinating.
Okay. Maybe we can give some lucid dreaming tips, because usually folks are pretty interested. Yeah.
We'll definitely we'll go there. All right, guys, we're going to let Perry Mills pick up the call, take us out of here, and condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And we'll see you guys in the second segment.
You've been missed on along the way. Put aside your petty fight, serve your dignity. You've got to show the heart that you've been hiding and set it free. There's just one door in a world gone wrong. We all need love, and if the cure for one is the cure for us all, there's an urgent message trying to reach you. Excuse yourself and pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. It came the same way the very next day. The words they just kept on coming through. Hard to conceive if you believe me. This is what you really want to do. You got to tune into your inner being. Now let it be. You got to activate your inner vision. Now let it see. Cast out the doubt, the mindless chatter. Now let it go. It's time to tap into the heart of the matter. 'Cause don't you know, there's just one cure in a world gone wrong. We all need loving. And if the cure for one is the cure for all, step right up and don't be shy. Excuse yourself and pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. It's really all quite simple in the end. You got to tune into your inner being. Now let it be. You got to activate your inner vision. Now let it see. Cast out the doubt, the mindless chatter. Now let it go. It's time to tap into the heart of the matter. 'Cause don't you know, there's just one cure in a world gone wrong. Up and don't be shy. Got to look yourself right in the eye. There's a magic moment trying to meet you, an urgent message trying to reach you. The phone is ringing off the wall, so pick up the call. You gotta pick up the call. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick up the call.